YouTube. My name is Jack. And today I'm going to give you a little bit of a life update and then share some thoughts about magic and when magic doesn't work. And you'll see how that's related to the life update. The update is that I am officially settling here in Utah. I got a job. I'm really, really happy about this job. It's a job in corporate learning and development. So I get to do the parts of academia that I really liked, which are, being in a classroom, teaching people new things, and engaging face-to-face with a group of people. That's where I thrive. That's where I really shine. And importantly, I get to do all of that in a situation where I have job security, a decent paycheck, and I'm not on the hamster wheel of academic publishing, which was really the thing about academia that I disliked the most and wanted out of. So this really is the best of all possible worlds. I'm thrilled with the new job. I'm so excited to get started on it. And yeah, life is really good. But that job is based here in Salt Lake City, so I am settling in Salt Lake, Utah, and I'm going to be here for the foreseeable future. I move into my new apartment on Friday. I will be opening up a group for anyone who's interested in Gardnerian training here in Utah. I'm the only Gardnerian in the entire state of Utah, so I am going to be running that group by myself, at least to get started, which is not the ideal, right? Like, ideally you want to have a magical partnership as kind of the basis of a coven, but I'll talk about that in a subsequent video. For now, I'm in Utah, which is super exciting. I'm getting settled. I'm opening up a pagan group. I'll put a link to the website for that, just in case anyone is watching this and is in Utah and seeking the Gardnerian tradition. Feel free to check out the website. But for now, I want to talk a little bit about the magic that I did that got me here. Because, of course, I was doing magic to get myself here, right? Like, I'm a witch. That's what we do. That's, that's the name of the game. And I've been doing magic to get a job for a very long time. So in the fall of 2022, I went on the academic job market. And starting then, I was doing magic to get myself a job, and I was throwing everything I had at it magically. And my magic went nowhere. And in just about all of the other magic that I was doing in my life, I had a lot of, like, the kind of flashy, exciting successes that you hope for when you do magic, right? Like, it was the kind of thing where, do a spell to help someone get out of a bad situation, and within 3 days they're gone. And, do a spell to, affect the weather to make sure that I can do a particular thing outside, and it's like a bluebird sky and sunny and perfectly calm on that day at that time. Like, the magic that I was doing for everything other than getting a job was working really well. And all of my magic to get a job was failing spectacularly. It was the kind of thing where, like, I would do a spell to get an interview with a particular place. And very shortly after I did that spell, I would just get a desk rejection. Like, no interview, no, we want to hear more from you, just like, thank you for your time, but no thank you. And this happened several times in a row with several different jobs in different places, right? The closest thing I had to a success during that first year on the academic job market is that I did a spell to get myself past the first round of consideration with a job. And for that job, I got an email that said, you made it past the first round of consideration, but you did not make it past the second round of consideration, which I guess happened prior to the interview process. So I didn't even get to an interview with that job. And I just, like, every spell I cast on my own or with my coven just did nothing. Just, like, was not working. And then, I did a year on the academic job market. I really debated whether to go on the job market at all because I kind of already knew that I wanted out of academia, but partly my funding package through my university was structured in such a way that I could only guarantee seventh year funding if I had gone on the academic market in my sixth year, so there was an incentive to do that. And then partly also, I think there was this idea of like, there was a part of me that was worried that the reason I said I wanted out of academia was that I was afraid of failure. That, you know, like, I was afraid that I would go on the job market and not get anything, and so it would be easier just not to go on the job market at all. And so I decided to take a year, try really hard, like, give it my best effort, go on the academic job market and give it everything I had. And then after 1 year on the academic market, take a step back and reconsider and say, like, is this really what I want to do? Or do I now feel comfortable making the choice to leave academia? So a year came and went. I took a step back and I was like, yeah, you know, now that I know it's not just a fear of failure thing, because I did try and I did fail, and like that's out of the way, I really don't want to be in academia. I want to leave the ivory tower. It's been good to me for the past 6 or 7 years, but there are things about it that I really don't like, which mainly it was the publishing, but then also, like, there are lots of things about academia that are less than ideal. But, you know, I said to myself, like, there are things about academia that I really enjoy. There are enough things about it that I dislike that I don't think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I want to make a decision that I'm going to finish my degree and then leave the academy. And so I finished up my dissertation and I started applying for non-academic jobs. And I started applying for non-academic jobs in August. It is currently April and I just got a job. So it's a long time. And I had a really, really rough go of it, being on the non-academic job market. No one had told me that the non-academic market also sucks right now. And, you know, non-magically, there were a couple of things happening that were part of why it took me so long to figure out, you know, how to do job applications and how to get a job. Part of it is the career development resources available to me through my university were almost entirely geared toward people who wanted to stay in academia and become professors. And the resources that were available for people who wanted to leave academia were mostly oriented toward, like, students in the sciences and engineering. And so there was all this stuff about, like, you know, oh, your lab experience translates really well to a work environment, and, like, none of that was applicable to me because I didn't have lab experience, I didn't have grant writing experience, so it was kind of a different animal. So part of it was just I had to learn what the shape of non-academic job applications is and how to apply for them, because it's a very different sort of process than applying for academic jobs. And I had to, like, completely retool my resume because an academic CV and a non-academic resume are very different animals. And my resume went through, at this point, honestly, probably more drafts than my actual dissertation did. Just so many rounds of tweaking and changing and adjusting and reorganizing information and taking information out, putting new information in, trying to find what was relevant, trying to find the most concrete things, and also trying to find, like, how to communicate the actual professional skills that I have as a result of having done a PhD. Because those skills are obvious to me, right? I know that having done a PhD in philosophy, I'm excellent at writing, I'm excellent at public speaking, I'm excellent at communication of all kinds, anything involving analysis, independent project management, organizing a group of people to get tasks done. Like, these are all things that you learn how to do over the course of a PhD in the humanities. And I know that. But, you know, a lot of employers see PhD in philosophy and have no idea what that means or how that is in any way qualifying for whatever kinds of jobs that I would want to do. So it took me many, many months just to figure out how to apply to jobs in a way that would explain who I am, what my skills are, what my experience is, and why I'm valuable. I got interrupted. So there were a lot of non-magical reasons that I needed that time to figure out how to apply to jobs and how to do it well. because applying to jobs is a skill, and it's one that I hadn't had the opportunity to build over the course of the time that I spent doing my PhD, so I had to learn all of that very, very quickly. There was a very steep learning curve. But there's also the magical question. And magically, starting in the fall of 2022 and going up until very recently, I was throwing everything I had magically at trying to get a job. And it just wasn't working. And then I moved to Salt Lake City. And I came out here, I finished grad school, my lease in New Jersey expired, I was sick of living in New Jersey, I was miserable in New Jersey, desperately wanted out, and I have a friend out in Salt Lake City who had been saying, like, oh, you can come stay with me, I pay, like, a nominal amount in rent to, like, sleep in the living room and just, like, crash here while you're figuring things out. And I didn't want to commit to another lease while I was trying to apply for jobs, and then I might have to move away and disentangle myself from a lease anyway. And on top of that, I certainly didn't want to commit myself to another lease in New Jersey, because New Jersey is an awful, miserable parking lot. So I packed up my life, and I drove to Salt Lake City. And it's so beautiful here. I love it so much here. It really, really is just... It's such a relief to be back up in the mountains and to be in a place like Salt Lake City. And when I first moved here, I had this feeling that this is a place that I could put down roots. This is a place that I could settle and be really, really happy. And that, like, there's a dominant culture of Mormonism, which is present in some very visible ways. Salt Lake City itself is not nearly as much that. Salt Lake City is kind of where all of the apostates go, and so you have this very, like, delightful, progressive counterculture, which is just kind of the dominant culture of the city. And it's very queer, it's very pagan, it's, there are lots of, like, coffee shops and tattoo parlors and other dens of sin. So I really love the vibe of Salt Lake City. And when I first moved here, I went up into the mountains and I did a spell to get a job. And I went kind of deep into the mountains and I found a stone. And I washed the stone in fresh snow. Because there still is snow on the mountaintops, but there was certainly more of it when I moved here in February. And I washed this stone clean, and I had a little chant that I had, which was roughly, Goddess and God, bless this stone, Goddess and God, make this my home. And I washed the stone clean, and then I took it back with me, and I slept with this stone under my pillow every night. And the idea was to take, the earth, take something grounded and that belongs here, and to say, like, this is where I want to settle. So get me a job so that I can settle here. The day after I cast this spell, the job I applied to, the next job that I applied to after I cast this spell, is the one that I ended up getting an offer from, and the job that I have subsequently accepted and will be starting very soon. And it took a long time between me applying to the job and me getting the job offer, right? I applied to the job in February, I got the offer in April, because there were multiple rounds of interviews to go through, and then there was, like, an internal, review to make sure there was no conflict of interest with the company, and there were lots of things that had to be sorted out. But fundamentally, I cast this spell, and the next job I applied to is the job that I got. And, oh boy, it's nice when magic works. But it's a really sharp contrast between everything I'd been doing up until that point, all of the magic that I'd been throwing into trying to get a job and had completely been failing with. And then this job where I settled in Salt Lake City, and I did one spell that was, this is the place that I like, I want to be here, get me a job so that I can stay here. And that spell worked, and it worked flawlessly. So let's talk about why. Let's talk about why all of that other magic didn't work, and then all of a sudden it did. And there's one answer that's on the table that, like, isn't really on the table, just because I refuse to consider it. And that answer is that magic just doesn't work, right? That there is, in fact, no actual connection between me doing magic spells and any kind of external results in the world, and that I've just kind of rewired my brain to reinterpret things as being causally connected to the magical actions that I take, right? That's a possibility. Generally speaking, I think if you're practicing magic, you kind of already take it as a foregone conclusion that magic is effective and does work. You know, like, no one wants to admit that they, like, refuse to engage with certain possibilities and they close off their mind, but really and truly, I think that most magical practitioners don't really engage with the question of, like, is magic real? I think that by the time you are practicing magic in earnest, and certainly by the time that you have been practicing magic in earnest for, a period of years, you're not really willing to entertain the idea that magic is fake. And that's the result of, like, being in a community surrounded by people who are also practicing magic. It's the result of having a couple of, like, noteworthy experiences where magic seems to have really worked for you, but for whatever reason, like, you already buy magic, and you're not trying to resell it to yourself. And that's certainly the case here, right? Like, when I ask why didn't all of my previous magic work, I'm not really willing to accept the answer that, well, that's because, like, actually magic just doesn't work at all. And I acknowledge that that makes me less than a maximally rational person, but, like, let's just kind of acknowledge that bias and get it out of the way. So having ascertained that we're sort of operating within a paradigm where magic is real, magic is effective, why did it all not work? And then all of a sudden, once I moved here, it did. One answer that people give a lot of the time is that when their magic fails, it's because they did something wrong, because they were not, like, effectively working on the spell, or they didn't raise power right, or whatever. Honestly, with all of the failed spells that I did to get a job, I don't think that's the case. Like, I'm good at magic. I know how to put together an effective spell. I know how to perform an effective spell. And I was doing a lot of this magic in a coven with a group of other people who are experienced and skilled magical practitioners. So I don't think a lack of skill or, like, a lack of technique is the thing that's behind it. And this is a question I've been mulling over for quite some time. Is, like, what changed between the magic that I was doing before and then the magic that I did once I got to Salt Lake City? And I think that the honest answer is that I was so unhappy while I was in New Jersey. And I couldn't figure out what I wanted, because all I really wanted was to get out, right? I felt like an animal trapped in a bear trap that was, like, trying to chew off its own foot in order to escape. My priority, my, like, mental state was, get me out. I want out. I need to escape. Because I was really unhappy with my life in New Jersey. I was, sick of the town that I lived in. I was sick of doing my PhD. And, most of my social circle was gone because most of my friends from grad school had finished their degrees and left. And, like, I just wanted out. And what that meant was that for every spell that I did that was, I want to get an interview with X, Y, and Z. I want to get, to the next round of consideration with this job. Like, that was the stated goal of the spell, but really what I was trying to do magic for, like, what I wanted deep down, was just to get out, just to escape. And so the magic kind of wasn't going in the right direction. And I think it wasn't until I left, until I had escaped, that I was able to see myself and my goals more clearly, and really genuinely ask the question, like, what do I want out of a job? What do I want magically as a magical goal? What is the positive thing that I am trying to achieve? Not just the negative thing of, not this, something needs to change, but what is the actual goal that I'm striving toward? And, I think that until I was here in Salt Lake City and happy to be here and no longer feeling that kind of panicked desperation of trying to get out, Until I had dealt with that, I wasn't able to do effective magic to get a job because I wasn't really actively working toward a specific goal, even though I was like stating that in each respective spell. But like I wasn't really trying to do that. What I was really trying to do was just kind of this negative, like, to change this, I don't like this. And that wasn't as effective for magic because it was too scattershot. There was kind of a sense of like, yeah, sure, I'll do a spell to like try to get an interview for this job because anything's got to be better than what I've got right now. But it wasn't like, oh, I really want this job and I'm really moving toward it. So once I got here and I was like, oh, I'm happy here. I like it here. I want to continue to be here. Here's an actual like specific thing that I can focus in on that I really do want, as opposed to just like, yeah, this is probably good enough and it will like get me out of the thing that I don't like. I think that sort of opened me up and let me do effective magic once again. I don't think that magic is entirely psychological. I think that magic is not all in your head. But I think that your ability to perform effective magic is related to your mental state. And I think that my mental state, with regard to like trying to get a job, my mental state for the past couple of years was not conducive to effective magic because I wasn't able to really devote myself to the kind of like focused goal that magic requires. So that's my diagnosis of why the magic didn't work until it did. Yeah, I don't know. It's a thing I've been mulling over, and I'm sure I will have more thoughts as time goes by, but for now, that's kind of where I've landed. So I think I'll wrap this up here. Very excited to be in Utah. It's so nice here. I'm so happy. I'm so excited to be here. And excited about the new job, excited about opening up a training group, which once again, I'll put a link to the website for the training group down below. So if anyone watching this is in Utah and is interested in pursuing Gardnerian initiation, feel free to hit me up. And otherwise, I hope everyone is having a fabulous day, and yeah, I'm sure I'll be back sometime soon.